The original inspiration was I have a lot of friends that are in the music industry, some successful, some not. And I was trying to come up with a way that would help them get noticed. And so I was coming up with a bunch of different like MP3 player designs.
And that's
And I was
that's the
like,
word I'm using for
yeah,
MP3.
like MP3 player. And I just kept going back to the cassette, the cassette, the cassette. And then I looked out there and there were like some adapters and this, that, and the other, but nothing like what I was envisioning. So I'm like, okay, I've got like, I'm going to figure out a way to make this. And so I ended up basically taking apart like MP3 players and the old cassette adapters that you
Uh,
used to put in your car that had the wire that came out so you could play it into your CD
yeah,
player.
yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
So like taking those apart and just trying to figure out like, how does this work? How does this work? How does
Welcome to another episode of Everything Intellectual Property. Today, we have a very special guest with us. This gentleman has rebooted the cassette so that you have an enhanced musical experience. Please help me welcome the founder of Mixtape, Paul Burns. How is it going, Paul?
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Oh,
I love your show,
no,
actually.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I know we're talking a lot offhand about just kind of just everything IP and Amazon and everything in between. So I'm definitely looking forward to doing this. I guess for the listeners who kind of maybe is listening to this on podcast or looking at the video, a version of it. Can you describe your product and what it is that you have invented with the cassette?
Sure. So it is, in the simplest terms, it's kind of like an iPod that uh, has mated with a cassette, and they had a baby. Uh, it's a digital, as you can see on the screen. It is a fully digital, but also analog cassette tape that will play as a cassette, but also has the standard headphone jack. It has Bluetooth in it. It's got a touch screen. It's got 8 gigs of memory on it, which is about 2,000 songs. But you can put in a little memory card and then up to 512 gigabytes. So then it gets to like, I don't know, 100,000 songs. So it like the capacity is there. It's not really like meant to compete with streaming, but it is. It's just a different experience. Like it's a more tactile, physical, nostalgic experience. And I say nostalgic, but even like kids are buying these. The number of 20-year-olds that are buying this thing are it'll blow your mind. And I think that like to them it's just different. It's a way to maybe not be on your phone the whole time. People get like you get noticed if you're at the gym or at school or wherever you're at. You pull out a mixtape and like people always ask like, what is that? Like I like anytime I go anywhere, like to a restaurant or anything, I just have one sit it on the table, and every time like I've never gone out and not have someone ask me like, what is that? And so like there's just people are like drawn to it. Like I think nostalgia is such a powerful emotion, and the fact that you can help people have that physical, tangible, tactile connection to music, I think is important. So
Oh yeah, and again, to be honest with you, as I was continuing to do the research, I guess I maybe didn't realize that it doubled as an actual cassette. I knew it had the kind of like you said, the iPod aspect to it, where you can download, put songs on there and listen to them. But I did not realize that it also kind of doubled as a cassette, such that you can kind of put it in a cassette player, tape player, whatever the case may be, and it plays that way. I know was born in '90, so that was kind of
uh,
that was still kind of my era of kind of knowing about the cassettes and then kind of going into the CDs, and obviously, yeah, Apple with the iPod after that. But
right.
yeah, I would imagine that the young kids, they're like, man, this is cool because that's not something that, especially if you're born in 2000, that you would have grown up to as far as having a cassette.
Right. I think that they maybe they saw their parents using them, or maybe their parents had talked about it, or they just want something that's different and
Well,
unique. But the appeal amongst the 20 somethings is it's pretty high, higher than I would have ever thought. So not, and I'm not complaining about that. Like,
No, right, exactly. And then I would imagine, especially if you were kind of some type of musical aficionado, you have some type of, the old school kind of equipment where you can kind of put that in. I would know for sure if I go to my mom's house and kind of look around, she has an old school boom box that I could put a tape or a cassette in, a player. I know that's kind of maybe far and few in between these days, but definitely that older crowd. Or if you are you just love music, you will have one of these cassette or boom boxes where you can put the cassette in.
That's actually a good point. So a lot of different electronic companies are now releasing new cassette players.
Really?
You'll see there's new Walkman, like the portable cassette players, Walkman type players, as well as boom boxes. And it's actually quite interesting what they're doing. They're making it to where you can listen to your cassettes with a Bluetooth connection. So you have basically a Walkman that you put your cassette in and then listen via Bluetooth through your headphones or speakers. It's pretty cool. And so I think the cassette culture is definitely, I wouldn't say it's like, super elevated, but, you just saw, recently the Taylor Swift announcement, like she's releasing her new album on cassette, as well as vinyl and,
Right.
CD and everything, but like, it's not like she's overlooking cassettes.
Right.
I just think it's such a cool way for people that love music to connect to music. Like it used to be a physical connection to music. Like we used to look at the album artwork. We used to read the lyrics, we used to even like read the thank you notes in the, like whatever it was, or even just making a mixtape. Like, remember how difficult that was? Like, maybe that's a little bit before your time. Like you probably made mixed CDs. But like mixtapes, that used to be it would take you hours to put together one little 60-minute mixtape, because it was you're trying to express your feelings for somebody, or you just wanted to make something meaningful. And then, it's the product that I have is definitely one of those that, it's meant to like kind of recreate that, but also incorporate today's technology, like.
No, for sure. And I love what you're saying about the physical connection, and kind of really, as I was kind of really growing up, like I said, in the 90s, kind of especially moving on to CDs and really having that experience of having a cover, reading through it was like always like a book or, photos and kind of words or whatever that you can read through. Is really that physical connection, even kind of going and flipping through in the car, your CD case and trying to find that
right. Yeah.
the right CD for you. So it was a definitely experience with regard to the physical connection of it. I guess in terms of with this product, what was the inspiration behind it to say, okay, I have this cassette, but I'm also allow or create it or make it such that you can kind of use it as more or less a song holder where you can kind of put the headphones on and kind of, I don't want to use the term iPod, but kind of use it in that way in addition to use it as a cassette. What was that inspiration?
The original inspiration was, I have a lot of friends that are in the music industry, some successful, some not. And I was trying to come up with a way that would help them get noticed. And so I was coming up with a bunch of different like MP3 player designs.
That's the word I'm using for MP3.
Yeah, like MP3 player. And I just kept going back to the cassette. And then I looked out there and there were like some adapters and this, that, and the other, but nothing like what I was envisioning. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure out a way to make this. And so I ended up basically taking apart like MP3 players and the old cassette adapters that you used to put in your car that had the wire that came out so you could play it into your CD player.
I remember those, yeah.
So like taking those apart and just trying to figure out like, how does this work? How does this work? How does this work? And with a little bit of help from some other engineers, we were able to build this thing. And actually like this is what the original one looked like.
Wow.
Just had this tiny screen. It was not touch screen. It just had this touch panel, like capacitive touch panel here, but it would play as a cassette, and it also had the headphone jack. And but so this is what the original one looked like. I've gone through multiple iterations of this thing. And even though most people do not have a cassette player, it was important to me that it still plays a cassette. Like, I don't want it to just look like a cassette, because there are other MP3 players out there that just simply look like a cassette, but they are not authentic in that way, where they don't actually play as a cassette. And a lot of people will buy it and just use it as a cassette. Like, they load their music on it, and like they'll put their entire, let's say Beatles catalog on one mixtape, and then they can just pop it in their tape player and let it play for, the day or whatever. Yep. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool.
And that's interesting. And I guess as we talk about the IP here in a little bit, I would imagine that kind of played a part of maybe kind of getting it over the hump, or allowing it to be, or making it patentable. Maybe not. But I guess I did want to ask you, because the company started 2013, so that was almost 12 years ago. Have you been selling it for that long, or that's kind of when the wheels start turning and maybe it came out years later? How was that process?
So the one, this version is the one that came out in 2013. Came out on Halloween 2013. And I don't know if you can see, but only had one X at that time. I just called it mixtape because I had no idea what I was doing back then. I was just like trying to figure it all out. Yeah. And so I've had multiple different versions. I had this carbon fiber version, and then I had another clear version. But I have been selling them off and on. Like, I've had throughout the journey, I've had like corporate America jobs that, obviously take a ton of time, and you could end up working 50 or 60 hours a week at your corporate job, and then you spend your nights and weekends working on mixtape and trying to make it better, and trying to make sure, like, save up enough money, because everything, like, I've been funding everything myself, and so it's like you're just trying to figure out how to make it all work and get everything done, and you don't sleep. And so right, that's the life of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing mixtape now full time for the last 5 years.
So how does that feel? How does that feel to get to a position, again, something 2013, and again, you're like the prototypical entrepreneur, where that if entrepreneurship was, or how to do it was in a dictionary, I think your picture would be there, as far as, hey, don't just quit your day job and go all in at the beginning, but do both. Like you said, nights and weekends, may have to kind of work on a product, make some sacrifices. But then when you get to that point where things are kind of, you can justify just going full time with it, then do that. How did that feel? That must have been great when you kind of said, okay, I have maybe enough sales or whatever the case may be to do this full time, as opposed to kind of doing this double dutch thing between corporate job as well as mixtape.
Well, like, it does feel good, but it's also terrifying, because you're taking such a big risk, but you're betting on yourself. And I had this conversation with a few people where it's like they may have some good idea, but they don't have the it factor or whatever it is. They just don't have the courage to take the risk. And I'm like, take the risk. Even if you fail, you're going to feel so proud of yourself because you took the risk. And yes, it may be like terrifying, and you may have there may be days that you regret it, but just, you got to do it, because otherwise you're going to look back on your life and be like, oh man, I wish I would have whatever. And someone else will have done it and like, oh my gosh, I had that idea. And I can tell you from my experience, like, I see products come out right now that I have thought of 20 years ago. Yeah. And I'm like, if only I would have followed that idea, and I mean, I love mixtape 100%, but I'm not trying to step on mixtape. It's just like, you have these ideas and you choose which path you want to follow. But even if you just have one idea and you're passionate about it and it's a good idea, like, you gotta just.
Oh, and that's a great point. I was actually with a buddy of mine at a car show yesterday. He has an old school car that we kind of drove there, and he has an idea, and I was kind of, again, along with the whole theme of this podcast, just trying to push people to be entrepreneurs. When people find out I'm a patent attorney, the first thing they tell me is, hey, I have an ideal. So we all have ideals. I think, to your point, those with that courage and the confidence are the ones that kind of follow through on it. But being at the end of your life, looking back, you're not going to be upset that you did something and failed, but I can imagine you regretting not doing something.
Correct.
I think what you mentioned. So that's why I always want, hey man, trying to push people out to their ideal, and just having people such as yourself. What you said, 2013, I had no idea what I'm doing now. I'm doing this full time and on multiple iterations of the product, and a lot of people love it. Just coming out the Buy It Now show, which is Amazon show, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I would imagine just the journey in and of itself has been an experience of something that you wouldn't take back. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to be ups and downs and it's not going to be terrifying times, but it seems like the journey is, which is really a, life in and of itself in terms of, man, just worrying or just kind of being, the journey is what's exciting as opposed to the destination, if that makes sense. So man, you hit on a lot of things. I guess with regard to, I know you're talking about maybe kind of dumping a lot of money into it and that, man, $200,000, I think you said. Was there any point during that time where you're like, man, screw this, I'm dumping way too much money in it? Or did you always have that, like, okay, I just believe in the product so much to the point where I'm gonna keep going?
Both, really. It's like, I definitely, there were times where I'm like, okay, this is enough's enough, but there, like, that 220,000, whatever it was over a long period of time. So when you like think about it, like, it's really, I mean, they were in batches, like it was, maybe 50,000 the first time, and then 20,000 here, but then another 60,000. Like each iteration of mixtape requires, like, you have to do new circuit boards, and you have to do new chipsets, and you have to do new like the material that is holding the cassette, the casing of the cassette, and so all those things cost a lot of money. But it's been over a decent amount of time. Now if I had only one version of mixtape and I put that much money in, then I'd be like, whoa, okay, that's but because that's really over the life of mixtape since, like you said, 2013. You spread that out, it's really not that terrible, but it is, I mean, it's still a lot of money.
So, for sure. Yeah, it is money nonetheless. And in terms of the times that keep you going, I know some people don't use a crowdfunding platform. I think you did with Kickstarter, which seems like was wildly successful. Was that one of those things that kind of kept you going on, that you had that support of, I think, 1,200% funding on Kickstarter?
Right. No, the Kickstarter experience was something else, really. Like, because there's so much work that goes into just setting it up, and then every day, and especially like if you have a day job, which I did at the time, every day you're getting like comments and questions and messages, like during the campaign itself. But I mean, like, setting it up takes about, honestly, like if you do it right, it takes probably a month to set up a really good Kickstarter campaign. And all the, like, the teasing, you want to make sure you're marketing it, you're building up excitement about it. But the 30 days that it runs for, assuming that you do 30 days, you can do longer, but let's say you do 30 days, like I did, like, that becomes a full-time job, like just dealing with the comments and the questions and the messages you're getting. And so Kickstarter is a big deal, but getting people excited about it, and basically they're pre-ordering the product,
right?
Like, then you start to feel like, okay, this is something, like you're starting to get the confidence,
right?
And you're like, okay, well, if this many people, and then you're starting like, well, do I even have time to have a day job and do this? And so you're like, oh, I don't know. But it's one of those things where, like, I love that I did Kickstarter. I'm probably going to do another Kickstarter with another product here shortly. But it's one of those things that it's kind of like we were talking about before, as far as like, you need to, like, if you have a good product and it's a good product, you need to push for it. But it is work. Like, you have to be willing to do the work.
For sure.
Like, if you don't have the discipline to do it, then you're probably off. Just keep your day job. But
for sure. No, absolutely.
It's a lot of work.
And so in those 30 days on a Kickstarter campaign, how much did you raise in those 30 days with Mixtape?
It was about 127,000, I think. So it's around 120, let's say.
So do you use that money for like the manufacturing, or I guess how does that work for the audience who maybe is not familiar with Kickstarter? And when you kind of have those pre-sales, kind of what do you use that money for?
The money, a lot of it goes to the molds that have to be made for the product, and then just the inventory itself. But usually, like to get on Kickstarter, uh, you have to have like a working prototype. You have to have like a something that something to show that this is a real thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like a lot of the cost, at least as far as the design cost, you've already covered, but the cost of the molds, and the production, that's like that gets pretty pricey.
No, and I was gonna say, from my understanding, that's like the biggest cost throughout this whole process is those molds and that kind of those production runs of the product. Seems like that's kind of the most costly thing, or could be one of the most costly things throughout the process. But it seems like with Kickstarter that in the campaign that kind of help you kind of get
Right.
some support at least for those first molds and those for that first production run, which is pretty cool.
And it helps you gauge the market because you can Kickstarter does a decent job of giving you at least some demographic data. Like you can see like where they're located. I think maybe you can see like some age demographics and things like that. So it's
Okay.
it does give you some insights as to like, okay, here's this product is appealing to these people, but it is also just the Kickstarter network, right? So it's not like general public necessarily because most people aren't buying stuff on Kickstarter, but it does help you gauge like what audience, who's your audience.
Gotcha.
So.
Oh, and that makes perfect sense. That definitely makes perfect sense. I was going to ask you, was this something that, because again, you talked about, hey, I'm going to be doing another Kickstarter on another product. Obviously, you have Mixxtape. Kind of we were talking offline about you have other patents and things like that. Was this entrepreneurship journey always like the goal, or did it just kind of morph into that? Clearly, you kind of was in corporate America for a period of time before kind of being an entrepreneur full time. Was this something that you always set out to do at some point, or did it just kind of come through happenstance over time?
It's something that I've done from a young age. So when I was 17, so when I was 17, it was 1993, just to go way back. And this is before everyone had computers in their homes. And I was a huge computer nerd since I was 8 years old.
Gotcha.
So at 17, I started my own computer company, and I had no marketing skills back then, so I just called it Paul Burns Computers, in this small town of Brady, Texas. And I ended up selling computers to a lot of the local businesses, the schools, the banks, and then I would, teach them how to use them. I would write programs. Like I was writing before there were off-the-shelf like inventory systems or point of sale systems. Like I was creating them in like DBase, like which is an old thing. I don't think it exists anymore. But and so like I always had that passion. And then when I left and I moved to Dallas to go to college, I ended up joining a startup called Primeco PCS, which is one of the first digital telephone companies, which ended up becoming Verizon Wireless, like within this big merger. Wow. So it was like that startup, and then I got to work in the Verizon Wireless startup phase, and then moved over to Metro PCS and did that as a startup. And so like I've always had this entrepreneur startup, like I'm always drawn like to that, because when you get into these big companies, it's hard to even feel like you matter that much, even if you're in a high elevated position.
Yeah.
But in these startups, or like whether it's yourself or it's a true startup, like you're going to have impact, you're going to have a vote, even if you're not high on the the title side, you're going to like people are going to ask your opinion, like, and I love that atmosphere. Like that's where I really thrive, is like I love solving problems, I love decision making, like I love team building, like all of that.
No, man, you make a great point. I think with the big companies, you can kind of hide and just kind of be another number, so to speak. But with the startups, not only does your voice matter, right, to the extent that you have an IPO or somebody buys it up, it seems like you can kind of get compensated pretty well as well with the startups compared to maybe the bigger companies. So that now I definitely agree with you on that. I guess another big thing about the startups is the IP, the intellectual property, whether it's trademarks, trade secrets, patents, and so forth and so on. It seems like kind of you've been at this entrepreneurship for a long time, going back to 17 and building those computers. What was that first introduction to IP? Again, you talked about having patents on this thing. You have another product that you are looking to come out with. I think you said you had some other patents on some prior
Right.
products, and even have some products that are being infringed on, unfortunately. So when did IP kind of get on your radar of as being something that, okay, I have to take serious and understand and kind of learn a little bit more about, and then more importantly, get it protected for these different things that I'm doing as I continue to grow the business?
It really started when I started to dabble in marketing, and I had to learn, like, during these different startup companies, basically it's all hands on deck, and so you get introduced to different aspects of the company, and so whenever I first started dabbling in marketing, to where, like, I had to learn, like, oh, I this brand needs to be trademarked, like, and then you start learning how difficult that can be. Even if you make up a word like Verizon, which is a made up word, like, there's still challenges on getting something like that trademarked.
Really,
And
you guys said they had challenge, and I don't know the Verizon story, but did they have challenge? Because that those words are the made up words typically have the strongest form of protection, such as a Nike or Adidas or out of those
right,
pharmaceutical drugs. Kind of gives you the strongest form when it's what they call it, a fanciful or just essentially a made up term.
right. No, it was definitely a made up term. Veritas and Horizon was the combination of those two words, if my memory serves correctly. Such a long time ago. But, like, I know that there were challenges there that
Okay.
I didn't have to fight those challenges, but I learned about it from the people that were in our group, because we were a very small group in Southlake, Texas, where, like, every challenge we knew about, like,
Mm.
um, and so even though Verizon Wireless is a huge company, it all was in Southlake, Texas, just this, like, a rag team of people, essentially. But it was great. It was a great experience. But
Nice.
and, like, with Mixtape, I have a trademark on that. Um, and, it has two X's, right? So
Yep.
Mixxtape. And there were, like, I got multiple rejections on that. But I knew it was important to do. Like, I was like, okay, I want to own this brand, and because I really believe in this product. And even getting the patent on Mixtape, like that, I was so proud of the product that I was like, I want to protect the brand, I want to protect the product. And
Wow.
I had no idea the journey that it would take to get a patent on Mixtape, because there are other music players that look like a cassette.
Yep.
And so this had to be different enough. And so, like, I went through at least 3 rejections before I finally got it approved. It was about probably 5 years process.
Wow, wow. No, yeah, the 5 years is probably on the longer side of things a little bit. But again, the federal government, they obviously don't work fast. But at the same time, hey, if it's something I've heard that before in terms of if it's something that you kind of really believe in and really is different and non-obvious compared to what's out there, then it may take some pushing back or sometimes following an RCE or appealing it in a worst case scenario to try to kind of make those differences known and understood to the USPTO and get it over that hump. And it seems like that's what you did with Mixtape.
I
Uh,
did, and I actually even changed patent attorneys, because, like, so I had a patent attorney that was quite expensive, like, very expensive, actually, because I, again, did not know what I was doing back then. And then I basically went on social media and said, like, does anyone know a good patent attorney? And then I got some suggestions, and that met up with this guy who was way more affordable. He was local, and he was a former patent examiner. Uh, and so he's like, okay, so if we tweak this and this, then chances are, like, like this, like,
overcome
we
the
can
hard.
get this done. And so that helped. And it's kind of like, going to a doctor, and you're like, my doctor's telling me this. Then you go to another doctor, and the doctor's like, oh yeah, that's wrong. That's just this, and this.
For sure.
I only knew earlier. So yeah, getting a good patent attorney is a big deal.
No, man, it's multiple reasons why I do this podcast. I talked about trying to push people up to kind of become entrepreneurs and kind of bring on others such as yourself and kind of be able to kind of tell your story and your product so that people can kind of relate to entrepreneurship just from kind of regular everyday people. But another part of it too, as I'm doing a lot of these interviews and Shark Tank, Buy It Now guests and business owners, and I'm kind of really surprised on the experiences that people have with patent attorneys. I guess being an IP practitioner, obviously, there are better patent attorneys than others, but you don't think of the, I guess the delta between the delta as it relates to the experience that people are having with attorneys, that being good or bad, and having to switch attorneys and attorneys not kind of telling them or not maybe communicating or telling the business owners kind of what they need to know or whatever the case may be, and just kind of really making it for a less than ideal experience kind of going through this process. And can be a long and expensive process. So that's that's something that I was kind of taken back by. And it seems like kind of you had a similar situation where having to switch patent attorneys, because again, it's not like, it's a little better now, but it's, I don't know, it's probably not the easiest thing to be able to find maybe a good patent attorney, and hopefully over time you kind of can get one, but especially at the beginning, just what do you look for, where to look, it's a lot of challenges that you have to maybe overcome or get through to be able to kind of land on a good patent attorney. It seems like I'm finding out from doing these interviews.
Yeah, it's it's good to get one that, either your friends have worked with or someone that you respect has worked with. It's like, get a good referral.
For sure.
Because if you just find one, if you just search for one, there's, a gazillion, you don't know who to pick. But like I said, I just went on social media and was like, I was just on Facebook really, and just said, I need a patent attorney because like I've been rejected on this thing like 3 times. I don't know what's going on. And then, it was like, I would have saved a lot of money if I would have just found, a good patent attorney from the get-go.
Oh, for sure.
And just because they're expensive does not mean they're good.
Right. No, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. No, again, I know in the Midwest it's a lot more affordable, just attorneys in general. Maybe it's the same thing down south there in Texas. I know typically when you're dealing with attorneys on the East Coast, New York, Boston, they are maybe even out west, they're generally just more expensive given the whole climate out there. And like you said, that doesn't necessarily mean that just because you got something that's more expensive, they're going to be better or they're weight in gold. Now, hopefully you can find somebody out there that is good. But yeah, like you said, money or more expensive attorney doesn't necessarily mean that they're better.
Right. So it's a valuable lesson to learn. So hopefully people like get a referral from people that have used, like, don't just find one randomly.
And I think that's a good life lesson. Just, hey, man, if you can kind of, whether it's a woman or a relationship or whatever the case may be, if you can get a referral on that person beforehand, you're going to be a lot better off compared to going into this thing cold turkey.
Exactly. 100%. But go ahead. I was just going to say, I getting the patents because it was such a long process, and, each patent had its own challenge. But because it was a long process, you do have a different sense of pride about it. Like once it finally gets there, like you're like, oh man, I own this patent. Like that's like a lot of people don't own patents. There are people that have hundreds, if not thousands of patents. I realize that, but like, it's one of those things where it's almost like you just got your college degree or something. Like you're just like, oh, I'm just so like, I can't believe it after, 5 years of trying, it's finally here. So, and I realized that patents are infringed on all the time, and that people can make, just a few slight modifications and then get their own patent. So I realized that, but when you have the patent, it does help validate the product.
For sure.
And your company, so it's like, if you're a small business owner and you're thinking, well, should I get a patent? Should I not get a patent? If you can afford it and you have the discipline to stick with, rejections and all that, then I would get the patent, because it helps, like, this patented product does blah, blah, blah. Like that helps just even just from the marketing side, but it gives you credibility, and helps you when other products come out. You can at least reach out to them and be like, look, like this is pretty much the same as what I have. Here's my patent. This is this is a problem. So let's not like, and then, they'll end up working with you or licensing it or something like that. So yeah, there's.
And again, to the extent that I know you self-funded kind of most of your stuff, if not all of them, but to the extent that you are looking for investor money, a lot of times they want to see that their investment is going to be protected by way of something.
Yes.
And a lot of times that patent helps out tremendously in that aspect of things. Now, I guess on the flip side, and I do want you to talk about this a little bit because you had mentioned it earlier as far as not particularly with regard to Mixxtape, but you have another product that's being infringed on. Always kind of have that mindset of, you have to be willing to enforce not even just your patents, but the other forms of IP trademarks. And that's even if it's as little as a cease and desist letter, because if you're going to be on the market and people you have this thing that's about you that hey, he's gonna or she's gonna let people run over him or her and kind of not enforce stuff, and we can use it and we don't have to worry about that person coming after us, then that can be a bad thing as well. So I guess how do you kind of square that hole as far as, okay, I have these patents, I have this IP, but to the extent that somebody infringes on it, what do I do about it? Obviously, that costs money as well. Do I send a cease and desist letter? Do I just kind of turn a blind eye? Because that I guess that can matter. That can matter too as well, at least in my opinion.
Right. So for like the Mixxtape trademark, there are a lot of bands, musicians that use Mixxtape with 2 X's, and like that doesn't bother me as much because it helps kind of keep me on my toes. I've got to, because there are new posts about Mixxtape with 2 X's every day. And so like, I have to make sure that I'm still staying on top of like I have to be posting all the time. I've got to be doing this, and this. And those don't bother me as much because they're not selling a competing product. They're just using that word. And my SEO is good enough right now that I'm still relevant in the Google search and all that. Nice. So like, that's one of those things where the Mixxtape trademark doesn't bother me nearly as much as like, one other product, which, I won't dive into the company because I've not even contacted them yet about the infringement. Gotcha. But like, I have a patent that I have not launched the product. I have prototypes made, but I have not launched the product. Gotcha. But another company has launched it, and it's very viral on TikTok. They're making a ton of money. Wow. And it looks like the product they made looks very similar to the drawings in my patent. And so, yeah, it's one of those things where like, I will be reaching out to them and seeing if they want to license the patent or if they want to buy the patent or whatever. But it's one of those things where like, you just took my drawings and made it. Like,
yeah. And that's interesting. Not a lot of people I think this is a good point to go over that, where people don't understand where trademarks, you have to be using it in commerce. The USPTO is not going to allow you to get a mark or, get a trademark and just sit on it. But patent, now they want you to be kind of commercializing it and using it, but obviously you have money, you have costs and other things that comes into play that can make it difficult or at least make it take time. But you can still go after someone if they're infringing your patent, even though that's one of the cool things about a patent. It's an exclusionary right. It doesn't give you the right to do anything in terms of doing anything, whether it's making it or using it or selling it. You can kind of sell a product or sell a service or whatever the case may be without a patent. However, having that patent is an exclusionary right that allows you to exclude others from using it, making it, selling it, that type of a thing. And again, even though you're not kind of practicing it now, like I said, at least within the IP community, they call those patent trolls who are kind of sitting on patents yet suing others. However, you do have that right to sue someone else who's kind of infringing upon your patent. And a big part of the scope of protection is by way of the claim. So looking at the claims, which, like I said, is the most important part of the application or the patent, and seeing what does it cover and does this product cover that or infringe on or read on that set of claims. That's going to kind of define whether or not they're infringing or not. So it's kind of more so for the audience of kind of how do you decide whether or not somebody is infringing, and can you go after that person for infringing the patent, even though you're not protecting it, the answer to that question is definitely yes. So, no, you brought up a good point with that I did want to kind of flush out a little bit.
Right. No, and it's one of those things where like I'm not mad at them for launching a product because it's a great idea. like kudos to them for having probably the same idea. It's just the fact that it looks like my drawings is one thing where I'm like, okay, this is like, and they own a lot of patents. This company does, and so I know that they're out there trolling patents.
And that's interesting in and of itself. Typically, sophisticated companies who owns a lot of patents, like I said, a patent does not give you a right to do something. It's an exclusionary right. However, a lot of times, especially with sophisticated companies, they'll do a freedom to operate search, which essentially send an attorney look through the claims of all like different patents that's out there and make sure that this one that we're looking to sell is not infringing on someone else's patent, because to the extent that it is, then we're opening ourselves up for patent infringement. So typically sophisticated companies will do a search like that. That's surprising that they did not do that search, or maybe they did do the search and still felt like they were not infringing. But I guess,
Right.
I guess time will tell, or at least they'll be surprised.
Yeah, we'll see. Yep. We'll do a follow-up. We'll do a follow-up podcast, and I'll tell you how it goes.
Yeah,
I'm going to be reaching out to them pretty quickly here.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that one. And then kind of moving on to the buy it now aspect of it. What was I know we're talking off a lot about kind of the whole buy it now and Amazon show buy it now, which in my opinion is similar to Shark Tank. However, it does have a number of differences, more of a game show as opposed to kind of the Shark Tank product, but it is still pretty cool. Obviously, Jamie, who has kind of ties to both Shark Tank as well as Amazon, is being one of the panel members. But for you, what was that process to say, hey, I have to get on this show so that I can kind of blast my product out to the masses?
I ended up like, speaking of Shark Tank, like I went through the Shark Tank process, and that's really all I can say. Like my episode did not air, so I can't really talk about it. But a lot of the producers that worked on Shark Tank also worked on Buy It Now.
Wow.
And like I followed them on social media, and like they were posting like, hey, there's this new entrepreneur show coming, like apply here. And so like I applied, and they said, like, they called me like before I even finished the application. They were calling me. It was the weirdest thing. And they're like, absolutely, like, we want you on here. If you can just put these things together and blah, blah. I was like, okay, so let's do this. And the Amazon Studios experience, like was top notch. Like it really was. I mean, it's, you're filming, like we started at 6 a.m. and we weren't done till 9 p.m. Like
really?
Well, we were the very first episode to film. I was the very first person on Buy It Now, actually. Like I was the guinea pig. Even though we weren't till episode 6, we were actually the very first to film. They just moved this to episode 6.
Yep.
And so it was a very long day. I'm sure the other episodes probably weren't there that long, but working through a bunch of kinks. But the whole experience was great. Super exciting. JB Smooth was so cool.
Yeah, nice.
Like, so nice. Like everyone was super nice, like overly nice, like almost too nice. And it was just, it was a great experience. And there was a lot of excitement because we filmed in February, but it didn't air until it started October 30th, and the episode 6, I think, was November 12th or 20th. I don't remember which, but it was much later than we had anticipated. And so it, like, you're trying to get all this inventory over to Amazon, and you're trying to gauge like, how much should I buy? And, how much, because is this show going to be a huge hit or is it not going to be a huge hit? And you're talking to your Amazon team saying, well, here's what we think you should do. And you're like, well, that's going to cost a fortune. And you're like, well, what if it doesn't sell? And so you're trying to, manage inventory levels and make sure that you're prepared in case this thing does, take off. You don't want to like be sold out right away. Yep. And then, you lose all that momentum.
For sure.
But it was it's one of those things where, like, I wish Amazon would have promoted it more, and maybe they, I'm sure they had their reasons that they didn't promote it that much, but it was, I think it is a great show. There are a lot of great people on the show. It's like on the episode that I was on, like I met some fantastic people that, you know, we have very different backgrounds, but like we're all entrepreneurs and we all connected on, on that level. And so it was like, that was such a cool experience. And I still talk to a lot of them today. And, I mean, not that it was that long ago, but it's still like, we have a Facebook group where we just, feed each other ideas, and it's everyone from the show. And so we're just like, we ask questions like, has anyone dealt with this? Or, what are you doing about this, blah, blah. And so like, it's a great little community that we have now. So.
No, and that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the show has been growing on me as I do these reaction videos to them, having a live audience there, and obviously you're not necessarily trying to get a deal with the panel, but just trying to go into the buy it now store. And obviously the whole point of that is hoping that kind of people see the product. Obviously people can go on Amazon and sell the product on Amazon. It seems like this buy it now store is supposed to be more exclusive than just kind of selling the product on Amazon. I'm not sure, and you don't have to say it if you don't want to, but did it kind of pan out in terms of kind of being on the buy it now portion of Amazon being better than just being on, I guess, the regular portion of Amazon?
It's kind of hard to tell because, they didn't promote the buy it now store. And so like, I think it did help as far as searching, like if you're searching like for mixtape, if you're searching for music player, then your results will be elevated. But you may not be the first top 10. And like, gotcha. I think our understanding was like, if you're in the buy now store and someone types in music player, you're going to be the number one thing. In fact, if someone just goes to Amazon.com or the app, like the buy now store is going to be prominent on that homepage. But that never materialized. And, so that's where there was a little disappointment there, but, again, I love the whole experience. So.
Oh, for sure. No, that makes sense. Like I said, I didn't realize that Amazon had this kind of separate department or separate part of Amazon where it was a buy it now. So I thought that was interesting. And like you said, the way they kind of promote it, like, okay, you're going to really be able to kind of benefit from it. Yeah, hopefully they kind of continue to kind of push it out there or kind of make some changes, because the show has been growing on me, and just kind of being able to meet entrepreneurs out there such as yourself and kind of talk through that journey. It seems like that's it's kind of worked out for me. But hopefully kind of Amazon makes some whatever changes that they need to make to kind of not only bring it back for season 2, but also for kind of the business owners, the entrepreneurs, to be able to really take advantage of it and benefit from it in a way that, I want to say you guys thought, but in a way that's kind of win-win for everybody. So, well, that's cool. That's cool. So then I guess maybe kind of moving on to the business, going back to the business, I always like to ask this question. And it seems like kind of you've been doing this for a long time, 10 plus years with Mixxtape, and have ups and downs. We all know business is not this kind of linear progression where you just have nothing but ups over time. You have the ups and the downs. So up until this point in time with the business, with Mixxtape, what has been a biggest challenge that you had to overcome? And then on the flip side of that, what has been the biggest breakthrough where it's like, okay, man, that was big for us to be able to kind of hit that milestone and kind of get past that, or kind of get awarded this or that, or whatever the case may be, in terms of kind of going to the next level?
The biggest challenge has been, it's supposed to, like, a lot of it is like around relationships. It's, there are people that you think are in your corner and that could help you during, your entrepreneurial journey that maybe don't. And then there are people that you may barely know, or, it's acquaintance or a stranger, and they end up helping you a ton. And like, that's one of those things where it's like, the challenge is like, okay, well, you have a platform, you could help me tremendously, but you're not. And this person has a platform and they're offering to, like, they're reaching out to me saying like, I love your product, I want to help. And so it's one of those things like, it's just realizing like, you have to make sure that you've got enough in yourself to just keep going and don't expect there to be people, or I guess maybe like you don't want to expect people to do things without at least talking to them about it first. Like, you know what I'm like you just don't want to have the wrong expectations of
For
your
sure.
system. You want to make sure that you can power through, and then, but also be willing to accept the help of others, because there's like the entrepreneurial community is so awesome.
Yep.
Like once you get in, and that's the other thing I would say, this, if you're a small business owner, reach out to your local, like whatever, you know, innovation teams or entrepreneurial teams or whatever, like the city that you're in probably has some sort of, you know, advancement, or like there's some sort of group out there.
Yep.
And just reach out to them and network and network and network, because it makes a huge difference.
For sure.
Because everything that you're going through, someone else has already done it. And even with like, people are like, oh, well, I'm just using, and I don't want to go too far back onto the patent attorney thing, but people are like, oh, I'll just use AI to write this and that. I use AI every day. Like, I'm not doing here. This is all AI right now. I'm kidding. But like, I use AI for everything, like hardcore all the time. It's not the same as a patent attorney. So I know AI is a big thing as far as legal docs, but get a patent attorney, because they will fight the battles that AI cannot fight.
That's kind of crazy though. And again, I get it, trying to save money, and we all kind of use AI to try to save money and kind of make the process leaner. But kind of to your point, with a patent is a legal document. So I'm not sure. It seems like and that's going back to the whole enforcement thing. It's almost tough to kind of have a legal document written by a computer, and then at some point, say you end up in court, and then having to defend that document, or having somebody else defend. I can imagine going to a patent attorney and saying, "Hey, can you defend my patent?" It's like, okay, let's kind of go through the patent, and then you read it, and you're like, okay, this has a number of issues. It got through, but it has a number of issues.
Right.
That's going to make it tough. And like, well, I kind of use AI to do it. So I mean, I guess you can maybe hopefully have an attorney kind of look at it, and even as patent attorneys, we're using AI for some of this stuff, and it's like, you need a whole lot of oversight. And maybe one day it can write a patent, but that day is not today in terms of number of, the number of, I don't want to say issues, but brain freezes it has. And again, going back to the whole claims portion, the claims being the most important part of it, you want to make sure you get a nice claim scope, and that's kind of what really you pay for a patent attorney, to kind of have some good claims that are going to be kind of as broad as possible, and something that you can enforce, have some teeth on it, so you can enforce. So yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. But I mean, again, that's kind of the way of the world these days, using AI for everything.
Yeah, sorry, I went off on that tangent.
I know, no worries.
What were we talking about? I already.
So yeah, but then in terms of, it seems like kind of the breakthrough, or maybe I'm sorry, the challenges.
Oh, that's right.
Business, yep.
The rewards, I would say, like getting on these shows. One, I mean, getting on both shows was a huge thing, even though I'm not allowed to talk about one of them.
Yep.
Getting recognized at CES was a big thing. Like that's pretty cool. And so it's one of those things where it's like, and honestly, it's the reaction of people whenever they first see Mixxtape itself. Like, if we just want to talk about that product, when that screen lights up, like their eyes light up. They're just like, whoa, like no way. And I had this experience just yesterday with a guy who, like, I've known for a long time. He did not know about Mixxtape, which is, shame on me. And I showed it to him, and he was just like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, how have I known you this long and I've never seen this before? And I was just like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm sorry. Anyways, he's like, I'm gonna like this is gonna be my Christmas. Like, everyone's gonna get this for Christmas. Like, nice. Everyone I know loves music, and I can just load their music on here and give it to them as a gift. And now it's a personal gift to them. He's like, this, yeah, all day. So like, it's just, but yeah, like that's the joy of seeing people, young and old, like their minds just like, this is so cool.
Right.
I love that.
Well, and even kind of going back to the support, man, that's always an interesting one for me. Just kind of, as you talked about, where you have strangers to kind of do more for you than people who kind of know you for years or decades and kind of not willing to support the product. And I don't know, I always thought that was kind of unfortunate, but obviously it was always a thing that's out there that it's it's kind of tough to kind of try to make sense of, at least from my perspective. But it does happens, and I'm glad that you maybe said that, because you would think that, hey man, friends, family, people who know me, they're going to support me, they're going to post my stuff, whatever the case may be. But you get kind of down to it, and it's like crickets, man, and that's
Right.
it's disheartening in a lot of ways. But I guess as an entrepreneur, and the reason I'm saying all this is because, man, this is tough in and of itself, man. You seem like you want to surround yourself with people who really truly support you. And that may not be kind of some friends and family members, which I'm not saying to cut them off completely, but it may have to be a distancing, because the journey is hard enough to the point where you want people who is really going to truly support you, and you want to surround yourself around those people to kind of continue to lift you up. Be honest with you, but kind of lift you up as you kind of are going through the journey.
Right. No, I mean, it is unfortunate, but it's like some people are, good friends in certain aspects of your life and not other aspects. And so it's just,
I'm learning that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
am
it's one of
learning
those
that
things.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And unfortunately, it's these moments that you think that, okay, man, this is a good friend. They're going to help me out no matter what. And then you go through things like, okay, it's not a bad person. However, they're a good friend for these moments, not necessarily for these
Right.
types of moments. So that's, again, I'm learning that and kind of going through life personally at this point in time. And it is what it is. We're still going to kind of make things shake. I guess maybe just to kind of last couple of questions for you. I always like to ask this question: what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur? It seems like you've been at this thing for a while, really going back to you were 17, and imagine had a ton of ups and downs, a lot of successes, a lot of products. What advice would you give to somebody who's maybe kind of doing this double dutch of, I have an idea, do I kind of go off and kind of make something shake of it, or do I not do anything and just keep the corporate job? And trust me, we talked about AI. Corporate jobs is not like what 20, 30 years ago, where you're going to work a job for 30 years and then right off into the sunset. These corporate companies are laying off left and right, which it is what it is. A big part of that is AI. And at least in my opinion, I think that people need kind of to diversify their income 2-3 times as opposed to just having this one thing. But for someone who's maybe looking to get off into entrepreneurship and have an idea, whether it's a service or a product, what advice would you give to those people?
I would say if you you just can't chicken out on it. If you believe in it, you're going to have to do it. You do have to have a strong work ethic. You have to have the discipline. You can't, there are no days off. You've got to, have the discipline, but don't let that scare you, and don't chicken out on it. Don't make excuses. That's the biggest thing, is don't make excuses, because even on throughout my journey, there have been times when I could have launched this version of the mixtape earlier, but I was like, oh, I just don't know. I would chicken out, and then I'm like, or I would wait too long. I'd be like, well, it's not perfect yet. It's still not perfect yet. And I would just do different iteration after iteration after iteration. I've launched 4 of these, but there's at least a dozen different versions of mixtape that I've built, but I've only launched 4 of them. Wow. And so it's one of those things where it's go for it, and kind of to your point, with the job decline is going to happen, and it is happening.
Yep.
And if you have a product idea or service idea or anything that is, somewhat protectable, or even if it's not protectable, but something unique, even if it's your grandmother's brownie recipe or something, whatever it is, if you have something
that is protectable, be a trade secret though, so
valid, whatever it is, just do it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Just get it out there. You're going to learn a ton. When the first version of mixtape that I launched was nowhere near the version that I have right now that's available. The first and I learned so much from that. Is how to run a business, how to make a product, how to deal with customers. Every aspect of business you learn by doing it, more so than and I watch YouTube videos all the time, but it's even more so than watching YouTube videos or TikToks, whatever. You can learn a lot from that. It's a great resource, but doing it, you're going to learn things that like you'll be like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even think about this.
Sure.
And you'll see what you're made of, like, and you'll be like, even if you fail, you're going to feel so proud that you did it. Like, even if you fail, because I launched a Kickstarter campaign after my initial Kickstarter campaign. I launched a second one, several years later that wasn't successful. But that didn't keep me from launching the product. Right. So it's like, it's one of the, like, but I took all those lessons and I was like, okay, they didn't like this, they didn't like that. But they did love this, this, and this. And so and then I changed the product, which is now why I have the version of Mixtape I have today, is because I learned all of those, I got all those insights. And so, just get it out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. Have a strong work ethic. That's the most important thing, is you have to stick with it. Because you can't just, it's not just going to be an overnight success. It takes time.
I love that, man. I love that 100%. And then I guess the last question, and maybe the most important question, how can people follow you as well as purchase the actual product?
Go to paulthings.com or just Amazon. Search for Mixtape, Mixxtape, so 2 X's in Mixtape. Amazon is, on Prime, so you can get it, same day, next day, 2 days, whatever, depending on where you're located. But yeah, and then follow me on Instagram. It's just Mixtape, so with 2 X's.
Nice.
That'd be great. Yeah. Follow me on YouTube, because I'm going to start posting a lot more videos on YouTube, and it's just YouTube/Paul Things.
Sweet. No, and I'll definitely put those links in the description once this interview comes out, and I'll definitely kind of tag the YouTube channel as well, so that hopefully that helps out. But again, audience, hopefully you guys had the pencils and the papers out. Paul talked about a lot of great things, dropped a lot of jewels on his journey with regard to not only Mixtape, but just kind of the entrepreneurship journey. And again, I thought it was great. You might have to watch it a second time, just kind of pick up everything that he kind of talked about. But one of the things that I love that he said at the end here was, hey man, go for it. Don't give up, be disciplined. And I don't know. I think that's not only valid advice, but I think that's great advice, because and that's really kind of good advice for all things in your life, but particularly entrepreneurship. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and we will see you guys on the next one. Take care.